So I took a trip to the LDS Cannery again yesterday, and I'm taking some time tonight to pack up the food into 5-gallon buckets. I picked up similar stuff that I did last time, beans, rice, a couple different types of pasta. This time I picked up some powdered milk, some sugar, and some other kind of related food items. But I wanted to focus this particular video on showing you how I go through the packing. Just a quick overview of what I'm using. These are 5-gallon food grade buckets purchased from USA Emergency Supply. I'll annotate and put a link in the video description for you. And I'm using 20 by 30 Mylar bags, also purchased from USA Emergency Supply. Lids. These are locking lids for the 5-gallon buckets. I think they also do 6-gallon buckets. These same lids, I believe, fit both types of buckets. For oxygen absorbers, I picked up 4 of the 500cc 20 count, so 100 total. That should do me pretty well for the 16. You do want about 2,000 cc's minimum in a normal 5-gallon bucket. I usually use about 3,000 cc's, so about 6 of the 500 cc's per bucket. And here's the iron. Got it heating up, and I'm going to seal some stuff here in just a minute. I will show you how I go through that. Alright, I'm going to go through one packing example. First step, of course, is to put the oxygen absorbers in the Mylar bag, then seal the Mylar bag, and actually what I usually do after that is wait about 12 hours or so for the oxygen absorbers to start working. They'll take some air out of the bag as they do that, and kind of suck the bag in. It's a good way to show that you have a seal on the Mylar bag as well, and by doing that you won't cause any collapsing of the buckets. I've seen these oxygen absorbers, if you leave a lot of air in the bag that you're sealing or have kind of airy things that you're packing, I've seen them suck the sides in on a 5-gallon bucket that's sealed. So in any case, first step is to put the oxygen absorbers in the bags. Normally what I do when I crack one of these open, I'll slit it open with a knife of some sort and immediately put it into a Ziploc Mylar bag or something else that you can seal, because what these things do is they immediately start to suck up the oxygen. You can tell by the heat that's generated when they do so, but I usually seal only one bucket at a time, only taking out the number of absorbers that you need at one particular time, and then immediately sealing the bag after you squeeze some of the air out. So I'm going to do that real quick and show you the next step. Alright, so I've taken the oxygen absorbers out of the bag here. I'm going to go ahead and seal after I press the bag down, so as to preserve the oxygen absorbers. And I dropped, as you can see, 6 of these inside of the bag. This is just a packing bag that they came in, but this is some of the straight spaghetti. And the next step would be closing this up, getting the bag ready for sealing, and then I'll show you the next step. Alright, what I use to seal, you kind of need, or actually you do need a straight edge of some sort. I use the long level that I have for putting across the bucket and to use as a straight edge when you seal the bags. Use the level for a couple different reasons. One of which is it has a number of ribs across the front of it. I don't know if you can see that in the video too well, but this basically gives you multiple sealing surfaces, so as to give you a better chance of getting a tight seal. So basically what you have to do is you have to stretch the bag out across the straight edge, getting it as flat as possible, putting the straight edge across the top of the bucket, at which point you can apply the iron. Alright, once you apply the iron, Inspect the seal. You can see usually it tends to wrinkle just a little bit, but you can make sure that you don't have any like big creases across the seal. And then basically this one's ready to wait. I'm going to give it about 8 to 10, maybe 12 hours, as I mentioned, overnight to make sure that I have a tight seal. And I'll show you in the morning how that works. Hopefully I have all of them seal up good. One thing I wanted to mention too, these buckets with the lids and shipping combined end up being about $10 a piece. Now, you can argue that that's not the most cost-effective way to store food, but if you're actually in my particular situation, it's easier to keep up with 5-gallon buckets than it is number 10 cans or something like that. So, and I mean, if you calculate what the total cost of the food that you're storing is, it's still, extremely inexpensive as compared to buying food in the grocery store. Of course, but in any case, not a huge expense when all said and done. Just want to give you that data point. I think you'll find that most of the costs on the internet are very similar for these types of things. You may be able to find a local location that has 5-gallon or similar buckets, food grade, for sale, or in some cases I've heard of people actually being able to get them from a grocery store free of charge. But for me, this is a little bit easier, and I know what I'm going to get as an end result, and it's kind of how I do it. Oh, I forgot to mention, make sure you mark your buckets before you seal them up, or right after you seal them up, to make sure that you don't confuse things. Buckets with Mylar bags tend to look very similar to each other after you have them sealed up, and it would be a shame to have to open them to figure out what you sealed up. Normally what I do is I take a permanent marker, mark the weight, the type of the food, and the date that it was packed. Alright, here's a bucket. The next morning you can see how much of the air comes out of the bag when the oxygen absorber activates. That way you can make sure that you have a good seal again. After this, it's basically just a matter of sticking the lids on. What I use to put them on is just a mallet, simple mallet. Tap all the way around until the rim sounds dead, and you're done. Forgot to mention this morning that LDS Canneries typically give out the stickers for what they normally use for marking the number 10 cans to whoever's buying bulk pack goods. I typically buy these and put them on the 5-gallon buckets that I use. In a lot of cases it shows preparation instructions and nutritional information, which is kind of nice. So if you do buy bulk pack goods from LDS, make sure you ask them about the stickers. They'll probably give them to you for free.